Code Requirement 9.14, a mandatory criteria point. In every plantation wherein 50 or more permanent women workers, including women workers employed by any contractor, are employed or were employed on any day of the preceding 12 months, or where the number of children of women workers, including women workers employed by any contractor, is 20 or more, the employer shall provide and maintain suitable rooms with adequate sanitation, drinking water, and sleeping areas for the use of children of such women workers. The intent: to ensure the child care of the employed women workers, estate and factory must provide adequate creche facilities as per law where 50 or more permanent women workers, including women workers employed by any contractor, are employed or were employed on any day of the preceding 12 months, or where the number of children of women workers, including women workers employed by any contractor, is 20 or more. The process to meet the code requirement: 1. A register is to be maintained with details of the workers, the number of children, e.g. census register. 2. Suitable rooms, creches, with adequate sanitation, drinking water, and sleeping areas for the use of children of women workers are to be provided where a. 50 or more permanent women workers are employed, b. 50 or more permanent women workers were employed on any day of the preceding 12 months, and c. the number of children of women workers is 20 or more. 3. This is applicable to permanent, temporary, and casual workers. 4. Creches are to be adequately lit and ventilated, to be maintained in a clean and sanitary condition, and be under the charge of a person trained in child care. The drinking water provided is to be safe for use. 5. The state rules are to be followed for specifications of construction, equipment, and amenities for creches. Records and documents. Creche records. Code Requirement 9.15, a mandatory criteria point. The plantation should provide permanent workers, including his family, housing accommodation as per the state or central government guidelines after 6 months of continuous service, whether staying inside or outside a plantation, or a successor of deceased worker residing within the plantation and who has expressed a desire in writing to live in the plantation. There should be a time-bound action plan available with the plantation to meet shortfalls, if any. The intent is to provide housing accommodation as per the state or central government guidelines after 6 months of continuous service, including to successor of deceased worker who has expressed a desire to live in the plantation. Time-bound action plan is a must to meet any shortfalls. Process to meet the code requirement: 1. A register is to be maintained with details of the workers, the number of children, indicating time of joining. 2. All deaths in the plantations must be recorded. 3. This is applicable to permanent workers. 4. There should be an adequate contingency plan in place by plantation to meet the shortfall, i.e. by hiring workers on contract basis. Records and documents. Attendance register, death register, contingency plan. Code Requirement 9.16, a mandatory criteria point. The plantation should provide toilets as per prescribed design by the government. The toilets should be maintained in a clean and sanitary condition. The intent is to ensure clean and sanitized toilet facilities for workers. Process to meet the code requirement: 1. Separate toilets for ladies and gents in sufficient numbers to be provided. 2. Provision of hand wash stations in each toilet is a must. 3. Each hand wash station should have regular water supply, soap solution, and drying facilities. 4. Workers should be encouraged to wash their hands whenever they visit the toilet. 5. Toilet facilities are to be a. regularly cleaned and sanitized. Cleaning records are to be maintained. b. properly ventilated with windows and have adequate lighting. C. Have a sewage and waste management system. And D. Septic tanks and soak pits are to be provided. Records and documents. Sewage management procedure, toilet cleaning procedure and its records. Code Requirement 9.17, a mandatory criteria point. The plantation should make provisions for adequate potable water daily per head of the resident population. Water points shall be provided at the rate of 1 for every 4 to 5 families, subject to the condition that in no case should the remotest house served be beyond 100 yards. If the supply is from a ring well or a tank, which should be only in exceptional circumstances where supply is not possible from taps or tube wells, the water shall be periodically treated to keep it clean and free from bacterial or other impurities throughout the year. The intent is, the freshwater crisis is already evident in many parts of India. Groundwater is the major source of drinking water. In order to conserve the natural resources, limits should be fixed rationally, necessary legal limits to be obtained. Process to meet the code requirement. 1. Identify the legal requirement both at the national and local level, such as Water, Prevention and Control of Pollution, Cess Act 1977. 2. The plantation should make provisions for adequate potable water daily per head of the resident population. 3. Withdrawal of water from natural sources, rivers, streams and groundwater should be within the acceptable limits prescribed by national and state laws. 4. Water points shall be provided at the rate of 1 for every 4 to 5 families, subject to the condition that in no case should the remotest house served be beyond 100 yards. 5. If the supply is from a ring well or a tank, which should be only in exceptional circumstances where supply is not possible from taps or tube wells, the water shall be periodically treated to keep it clean and free from bacteria or other impurities throughout the year. 6. Water should be tested in NABL accredited laboratory or government laboratory for water potability standard IS 10500 for a potable water analysis as prescribed by legal authorities. 7. Record the existing amount of water used for domestic use. This will help in adopting targets for reduction in use of water. 8. Workers are to be made aware of water wastage and its prevention. Records and documents, water test reports, record of water usage. Code Requirement 9.18, a zero tolerance criteria point. The verified facility and its staff shall not engage in the use of corporal punishment, mental, physical, or sexual harassment or any kind of intimidation at the workplace. The intention is to respect human rights and to protect it. The estate, factory and smallholder needs to establish a process to ensure that no employee should suffer harassment, physical or mental punishment or other forms of abuse. Process to meet the code requirement. 1. The estate and plantations should have a policy to ensure the following do not occur. A. Corporal punishment. B. Physical harassment. C. Sexual abuse or harassment. D. Threatening, bullying and intimidation of the workers. And E. Mental harassment. 2. The management is to be trained in awareness and managing cases of the above. 3. A system should be in place to detect and discourage all forms of bullying and harassment. Need to have a committee especially for sexual harassment with an unbiased mix of male and female representatives. 4. A grievance procedure should be established to govern how violations of the policy are reported and dealt with. 5. Awareness to be provided to workers and residents of the estate on what harassment is and what needs to be done in such situations. 6. Where there is a need for disciplinary action, it should be taken as per the state-specific standing order. Records and documents, policy against bullying, intimidation and harassment, check Model Trustee policy in reference material, harassment redressal as per standing order, and record of the action taken. Code Requirement 9.19, a mandatory criteria point. If there are more than 25 children aged between 6 and 12 of permanent workers, primary education shall be made available to them under PLA 1951. The intent is to facilitate education of the children aged between 6 and 12. The estate is to provide primary education as per Plantation Labour Act of 1951. Smallholders also need to encourage their workers for the same. Process to meet the code requirement. 1. A primary education system, primary school, to be made available if the number of children in the 6 to 12 age group exceeds 25 living on the estate. 2. In case a public school is situated within the estate may not maintain a school. However, the employer has to pay a cess or tax for the children's primary education. 3. The school shall have a building in accordance with the guidelines and standard plans of the Education Department. B. Adequate number of classrooms, teachers and furniture. C. An open playground with all accessories. D. Fees are not to be charged from the workers' children. E. Drinking water treated as per IS 10500 for potable water analysis and sanitary facilities. F. Midday meals. 4. The students' enrollment and attendance record to be kept. 5. The smallholders should encourage the workers' children to avail primary education at nearby schools through various awareness programs on importance of education. 6. The teacher and student ratio should be maintained as per guidelines issued by State Education Department. Records and documents: school enrollment records, school attendance records, teachers' appointment and payment records. Code Requirement 9.20, a zero tolerance criteria point. Workers shall receive all maternity entitlements and protection in line with national laws and practices. Maternity leave shall not result in any discrimination, loss of seniority or deduction of wages. The intention: to safeguard the working pregnant women's rights. The estate and factory is to provide maternity benefits as per legal requirements. Process to meet the code requirement. 1. Workers shall receive all maternity entitlements and protection in line with national law and practice. 2. Maternity leave shall not result in any discrimination, loss of seniority or deduction of wages. 3. The estate administers maternity leave and pay benefits which they are entitled to by law. 4. All pregnant women are eligible for maternity benefits provided they have served in the establishment as mentioned in the latest Maternity Benefits Act 1961 before the expected date of delivery. 5. A woman is entitled to maternity benefits as mentioned in the latest Maternity Benefit Act 1961 considering latest amendment. This includes 6 weeks before and after the delivery, including the day of the delivery. 6. A written notice or a doctor's certificate must be taken by a woman to avail the maternity benefits. Records and documents: Maternity Benefits Register. Code Requirement 9.21, a mandatory criteria point. The verified facility shall set up a grievance reporting system that protects the identity and rights of the workers, and reports on the action taken for the same shall be available. The intent is to address and resolve workers' issues and concerns. The estate needs to establish a grievance reporting system. Process to meet the code requirement. 1. A grievance mechanism accessible to all the employees to be developed and communicated to staff, supervisors and workers, permanent, temporary and casual. It should include information about what complaints can be filed, how to report and where to report. 2. It should include information about what complaints can be filed, how to report and where to report. 3. Provision of confidentiality, reporting cases of abuse or harassment to be incorporated, and efforts to address the same immediately has to be undertaken. For example, a sexual harassment committee with an independent redresser can be formed to deal with such cases, or a complaint box can be placed at the hospital or the office. Confidentiality of these cases is to be maintained. 4. A plan on how the grievance will be addressed to be formulated and communicated, i.e., redressal within how many days and by whom. 5. An analysis and redressal of all complaints has to be carried out. 6. Records of complaint redressal have to be maintained. The records should mention the complaint, process of redressal, response time and the outcome. 7. In case of external arbitration and tribunals, all the relevant records are to be maintained. 8. Grievance reporting and redressal for action that violates anti-discrimination laws and practices is to be communicated to all workers. 9. Unfair penalization, retaliation for reporting any incident is prohibited. records and documents, grievance register, minutes of grievance redressal meeting, check reference material for specimen formats,